Well, hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It's time for a to be read list. This might be a to be read list. This might be a pile of possibilities. I don't know. I am struggling to prioritize mentally right now. And so as October is looming, I've just wanted to read all of the things kind of, and not really been able to pare down. So I might read all of this. I might read some of it. I might read none of it at all. We don't know. But I have a massive pile here, a lot of things. So my hopes for October are very high. So let's start with a book that is signifying a larger project, really, I think. And that is Soulless by Gail Carriger. So this is, I think, steampunk or gas lamp paranormal fantasy in historical England-ish. But this is signifying vampires and werewolves because those occur in here. But I think this is light, humorous, and maybe with some romance a little bit. This also signifies the fact that I need to turn away from the library and focus in on my goals a little bit more in the month of October. And as we head into the end of the year, I don't need to. I want to focus in on my goals because those are the things I wanted to do this year. And this is a backlist book from an author I've read before. I've read this author under a different pen name. And it also is from my own TBR shelf. This has been on my yearly TBR for multiple years, so I need to get to it. I think it's gonna be light and fun. And the project that I'm doing associated with this, or that I have in mind, is vampires and werewolves that are atypical. So unusual types of vampire werewolf stories that don't fit the common mold. And I have a handful of books that might fit that. I think I may vlog that and do like 3 or 4 books on that theme. But it seems like a very October theme to go with. So I'm not going to put all of those books on the TBR for now. We will see what I get to, but this is the highest priority of those. Then, of course, October, I have some spooky books. So that's the next category here. I'm really looking forward to leaning into the spooky. I am not a huge horror reader, though that has grown over the recent years, really since 2020 massively. I was not a big horror reader at all before. I still don't read a lot of gruesome, gory, that type of stuff. I like the psychological and mental stuff. So the first is an author I have not read from before, but I think could be someone I really want to dive into their catalog, and that's The Woods All Black by Lee Mandello. This is a very short novella. It's Appalachian Gothic horror, and I don't even want to know what the plot is, but there's a great paragraph from the synopsis that just describes the themes. The Woods All Black is a story of passion, prejudice, and power, an Appalachian period piece that explores reproductive justice and bodily autonomy, the terrors of small-town religiosity, and the necessity of fighting tooth and claw to live as who you truly are. So that all sounds like my jam. I did a video maybe last year or the year before about a couple of Appalachian Gothic books that I had read and really enjoyed, and I think this fits that vibe very significantly, so I think it could be a hit. Another novella in horror, I have The World Is Not Yours by Kemi Eshingiwa, and this looks very creepy. I don't know if it's coming through, but the teeth, the mouth smile looks too large on the cover. It's very eerie. This says it's cli-fi. I don't really know anything about the story, but it is compared to S.A. Barnes, who writes kind of isolationist in space sci-fi horror, and that is a vibe. I might actually try to get to one of S.A. Barnes' books, but this is, again, short, so I can get through it quickly. If I have room or time, I may try S.A. Barnes. But yeah, I've never heard anybody talk about this one, but it really appealed to me for spooky reading. And the reason for those being very short is because this other one, last one, balances it out. And this one, I think, is, of all of the things on my TBR, I have to get to this year. This has been on my TBR. I've owned this book over 10 years, I think, and not gotten to it. And that is House of Leaves by Mark Zadamalewski. This is experimental horror. I know it has a spooky house. It's got some writing quirks because there's like annotations throughout the book. So please give me tips and tricks down below about how to read it, or your preferred reading, because I know there are multiple ways to read it if you want to read the notes as you go or come back to them, etc. But this is kind of daunting just because it is such a big book, both physically and in popularity wise. People love this book, and everyone who reads it struggles to express what it is. So I'm really excited for it. I just need to actually start, I think, is where we're at. Then we have Victober. So Victober, I'm playing a little loose with. I think the things I have selected are fitting, but they're not what you think of when you think Victober. So at least technically, I believe I'm in the appropriate period. So the first is A Whisper in the Dark, 12 Thrilling Tales by Louisa May Alcott. And I read a biography of Alcott's last year, I think, that I really loved, and learned that she had written a whole bunch of sort of pulpy, like pearl-clutching, thrilling stories under a pseudonym. This, I believe, is a collection of all of those. And so this is a little chunky. I may dip in and out of it rather than reading the whole thing. I'm not sure. But it feels very seasonally appropriate because they're thrilling, sort of spooky tales a bit. And it is in the right period. And that sort of pulpy, serialized newspaper publication does feel very era appropriate, to me at least. So it's published in the right time. Anyway, and the other one is maybe, I don't know. I feel the right vibe out of this one, though, again, it's not at all typical of Victorian. So I have When the Sleeper Wakes by H.G. Wells. So when we're thinking about the end of Victoria's reign, at the turn of the century, and that being a time of great change, this feels like this fits that. This was published in the late 1800s. Most of Wells' most dominant, like truly popular sci-fi, I think, was late 1800s, and then he sort of verged out into other stuff. But this one, I think, is very self-insert in terms of the main character, who in 1890 is looking ahead with optimism toward the turn of the century, and from 1800s to 1900s. But then he falls asleep for 200 years. And when he wakes up, he finds out what has happened, obviously, what occurred in that period he had all these idealized visions of, what's gone on since then, and what the world is now 200 years later, where people think he's some sort of powerful or supernatural being because he's just been sleeping for 200 years and still alive. So it sounds like maybe he's worshipped as a god, is the premise of the sleeper waking. I don't know, but I do know that theme of the turn of the century, the optimistic hopes for what that could be, feel very in line, though period-wise, I don't think this is what most people think of when they think of Victorian. So again, technically correct is the best correct. And then finally, rounding this out, or finally, I have a massive pile remaining on one theme. And that theme is not even a real event, as far as I know, so I don't know. Erin from Erin Read a Book, mentioned the idea of an Old Lady October ages ago, months and months ago. I don't even know, probably beginning of this year. And so that has been in the back of my mind, and I don't think he's running it. I don't think anyone is running it. I'm not attempting to run it. But over the year, I have just kind of gone, oh, Old Lady October. I want to read that for Old Lady October. And so my mind has been collating and collecting books. And so here we are in October, and there's no actual event, but I want to read about old ladies. So the first trio of books I have is from the library, so I don't have them here to hold up, but I have 3 murder mysteries, and they're all kind of cozy vibed, I would say. They're not proper cozies necessarily. We have the Thursday Murder Club, which I have seen the movie but still not read the book. We have Marlow Murder Club. I think it's the similar title. Marlow Murder Club, I actually did a try a chapter, and that also follows an elderly group of sleuths and starts with an elderly lady skinny dipping in the river and recognizing that a crime has gone on. Great start, but there was a better book that I pursued for that read a chapter or try a chapter vlog. So those 2 I definitely want to get to, and then I have a continuing series that I have very much enjoyed with a new book out, and that is the 4th book in the Her Royal Majesty Investigates series. I think it's A Death in Diamonds. So obviously we're following the Queen of England, recently departed, and she is a whip-smart elderly woman sleuth who has been sort of quietly, secretly solving crimes her whole reign. And very much in line with Helen Mirren's character in Thursday Murder Club, she is really underestimated for being an old lady, and nobody really picks up on the fact that she is this whip-smart sort of almost spy. But I really love that series, so I'm happy that there is another book out. And so those are the ones I will be getting from the library. The ones I have on hand that kind of fit in this theme are Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons by Quenvy Olson. I have read this particular book before. It's not necessarily an old lady, but she's over 40 and she's a spinster aunt. So I feel like it's fitting. This is historical fantasy. I think this is Regency, not Victorian. But this could maybe fit for Victober too. I don't know. It's fantasy, so we won't put it in Victober. But it does feel like a very Victorian setting, except that a dragon egg is bequeathed to her. She inherits this rock that turns out to be a dragon egg, and that's the only fantastical element to this. But she is writing the guide as she goes along, and there's great intrigue. It's a very kind of cozy feeling, though there are some darker elements. And I loved the first book, but I need to continue on and finish the trilogy, which is all out now. So that is a really high priority for me, for sure. And then kind of randomly, other stuff I want to pick up from my own shelves. I have Dorothy Gilman's Miss Pollifax series. This is, again, teeny tiny. I have 2 of the books. This is The Amazing Mrs. Pollifax, which I think is the beginning of the series. I also have Pollifax on Safari, I believe. And we have, rounding out the list, The Provincial Lady in America by Ian Delafield. I don't think this is the first in series, but this is the one I have. And I don't think it matters. I believe this is an older lady who is very outspoken. And so I think this is humorous and also takes place in the 1930s, where she is traveling from England to the US and traveling around and commenting on her sights and sounds in the US. So I think those are going to be a brilliantly fun time, and probably too much for me to read as it is. So we will see. As I said up front, who knows how much of this I will actually read. And I will definitely be reading other stuff than what's on this pile. So the TBR is ever in flux. So as I said during the video, tell me please your tips and tricks on reading House of Leaves. Let me know if you want to read any of these. I will definitely open to buddy reads for any, because I'm gonna need them to keep me on target with actually reading from my TBR and not just going to shiny things for the library, because I tend to do that. And that's really where I wanna focus right now. So that's it for me. Let me know what you're most excited to hear about here, and thank you so very much for watching.